There's a lot of news coming out of Germany regarding the influx of Muslims. We're going to focus on that on today's program and learn, please God, learn some lessons. I'm Randall Terry.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
I'm going to read to you a small portion of a news story that is playing here in early November 2015. I'm going to date this, okay, deliberately, which is usually a bad idea, but I'm doing it for a reason. Germany is now somewhere at the edge of anarchy and sliding towards civil war, or to become a banana republic without any government, says Hans-Georg Müller of the Alternative for Germany party. Bavarian official Peter Dreyer called German Chancellor Angela Merkel to tell her personally that if Germany welcomes 1 million refugees, his town of Landshut will only take around 1,800. Any extra will be put on buses and sent to her chancellery in Berlin. Now let's just analyze some of what's going on. Now, for clarity, the little town of Landshut is near Munich, and it has about 50,000 people, okay? So this town of 50,000, now if you think with me, all right, for those of you who have lived in towns that are that small, a town of 50,000 getting an influx of 1,800, well, 10% would be 5,000, 5% would be 2,500, so we're at about 3.5% increase. But 1,800 new people, strangers, suddenly brought in to any town of 50,000 would involve an enormous strain, okay? So he's saying, we'll take 1,800. We'll take 1,800, no more. So some people say, well, what kind of a bigot is he? No, those are hard numbers, all right? They're expecting 1 million refugees in Germany by some press accounts. 1 million Muslim refugees finding their way into Germany. Now, Germany last night, would you check for me, Billy Bob? Check this number. Get me the number of the German population. I don't want to say it, what my memory is. My memory is it's around 70 million, but I could be wrong. So 1 million refugees, if you spread them out, a country as large as Germany can probably absorb them. I'll give you that number as soon as it gets whispered in my ear. But, all right, so 80 million, it's gone up a little bit. So 1 million into 80 million is a little bit under 1%. So that's a little bit under 1% of growth in the whole country suddenly. Presumably, Germany with a strong economy, a lot of good housing could absorb that. It's going to take a lot of work. He's saying, we personally will not take more than a 3.5% increase in our population. And if you try and send them here, I will get buses and I will send them to your chancellery. This article said that Germany could be sliding into civil war. What is that even talking about? What does that even mean? Well, in another recent story, there is a festival there called the St. Martin's Day Festival. And this is a day in which Germany honors a Christian saint. So some of the school districts are saying, let's change its name to the Festival of Lights because there's so many Muslims in our town that we don't want to offend them. We should not impose our Christian traditions on them. But are they not thinking? They're allowing the Germans to impose, or rather they're allowing the Muslims to impose their traditions, their Sharia law on them. You see, in Sharia law, they would never celebrate saints, ever. And they don't allow for icons. In Islamic jurisprudence or Islamic law, Sharia law, it is forbidden to make images of human beings. That's why if you ever go to a mosque, or if you ever travel to Egypt or some of these places where these huge mosques are and these huge Arabic and Muslim universities are, you'll never see an image of a human being, ever. You've got arabesques, you've got their artistic thrust is poured out in geometric designs, some of which are very beautiful because that's all you've got to do. Sometimes they'll cheat and they'll make a drawing made of all Arabic letters, sometimes even quoting Quranic verses. And then if you look at it, you go, oh, that's the outline of an animal or a bird or something, because even animals and birds are not allowed to be drawn in the Islamic scheme. Due to Muhammad, by the way, that's part of Muhammad's rules. So the Germans are scraping, some of them are scraping and bowing to the Muslim immigrants that are coming in and being willing to abandon their Christian traditions in order to honor Muslim traditions. They're bowing their knee to people who are flooding over their borders illegally, coming through Austria. These are refugees coming from Syria, from Iraq, coming through Turkey, and then pouring up into Europe, coming through Austria. And the Germans, rather than say, wait a minute, we have to manage our border here, and we are not going to abandon our Christian traditions, they are scraping and bowing. What does that say for the future? I'm going to take a break, but it's become very vogue. Look at the Discovery Channel, History Channel, War Channel, and you'll see so much emphasis on Germany. World War I, the interwar years when Germany rearmed, and then Hitler came to power. Hitler came to power and rearmed Germany, and then plunged the world into World War II. There's a lot of focus on that. We focus on Germany and say, never again. Well, maybe we should be focusing on Germany right now again for a little bit different reason. Thanks to friends like you, we have state-of-the-art cameras and state-of-the-art teleprompters and state-of-the-art gear here in the studio. We have one big need, however. We have not yet been able to upgrade our computers. The computers that we use for a television broadcast or to create a documentary are not like the kind that you can just go buy at Best Buy. They are expensive because it takes so much horsepower to create TV series and or documentaries. So I'm asking you, if you want to see this show grow and you want to see us finish the What Would Muhammad Do series, help us get these computers. 3 computers that we need right now are going to be just shy of $20,000. That's the kind of horsepower that we need. Go to the GoFundMe page you see right there. Watch the pilot for What Would Muhammad Do? And if you like the show, give us a gift. A lot of people focus on pre-World War II Germany, and they look at Hitler and they talk about the rise of the evil leader. Well, implicit in that we need to think about is he was a leader, okay? He wasn't just a crazy individual. He led millions of people. But more importantly, when the Nazi Party was small and despised, he led a group of dedicated men around him. Goebbels, Goering, and then Albert Speer rather, and others. And it was a group of men who exercised cunning, brutal authority and duped and led millions of Germans, okay? So the study of Adolf Hitler and the study of Germany is, when we say never again and we look back at it, we've got to recognize that we just can't think of Hitler being an individual madman. That would make him like Charles Manson, okay? That would make him an individual who was an evildoer and had a violent streak and an anti-Semitic streak that wanted to kill people, and he killed a handful of people, and then the authorities got him. We're not talking about that. We're talking about somebody who had an agenda in a book, Mein Kampf. We're talking about somebody who made public speeches and had hundreds and thousands, then literally millions of people listening on the radio, all right? And a group of people with him. So as we study Germany during that era and we say never again, we won't let this happen again, and we look at them, as we should, we need to remember that we're looking at a man and a group of men. It's fitting that we look back at that history to prepare or to protect ourselves. I don't remember who said it, but those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. Well, that's what we're doing right now, if I may just speak from my heart. That's what we're doing now with Muhammad and Islam. People aren't looking at what's going on in Germany through the eyes of Muhammad and his group of people that were around him. Like Adolf Hitler was a great leader, demonic, but great. He was a genius leader and dark genius. Don't anyone ever take me out of context on this. I hate it when people do that. Chump journalists like John Harwood and others. But he had an evil genius, and he had a band of men around him that were brutal and ruthless. Muhammad also had similar leadership skills, okay? He started with just a band of men, but those companions, as they're called, they were fiercely dedicated to him, and they were brutal, okay? What they did to the Arabian Peninsula, and then to North Africa, and then to Persia, and as they went east, making it all the way into India. It's the historical accounts of the brutality, of the murder, of the decapitations, of the enslavement, of the rape of women by the tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of women raped as a very part of the fiber of Sharia law and the rules of war under Muhammad. We look at Hitler and say never again, but we don't look at Muhammad. And there are people in Germany right now who are really alarmed. And then there's other people who say, oh, no, it's not going to be a problem. And it reminds me of what? Germany in the 30s. Now think about this with me. Winston Churchill said, this is a pretty accurate quote, that Hitler was a mad dog and he needed to be hemmed in and he needed to be hunted down and he needed to be destroyed. Churchill said those words when there was no war in progress. Are you hearing me? There was no war. And that's what Churchill was saying. Because Churchill was listening to his speeches. Churchill had read Mein Kampf. Churchill was getting information that the press, Jeffrey Dawson and the London Times, they didn't want to deal with. Okay? They were like, man, no, Hitler's a good man. The number one trading partner of England was Germany. Okay? Neville Chamberlain wanted this trade relationship. Time magazine, I believe it was 1936, picked Adolf Hitler as Time magazine's Man of the Year. Okay? Are you hearing me? The Man of the Year. And meanwhile, Churchill is saying, this guy is a lunatic and we've got to destroy him. I'll be right back. We've got to continue on this. Christians must be involved in government, period. If Christians weren't involved in government, we would not have a United States of America. And there have been brilliant Christian minds over the centuries, such as John Locke, who is called the philosopher of American liberty. He was quoted by Clarence Thomas in his recent dissent on the homosexual marriage decision. If we don't understand John Locke, we don't understand the founding of America. I want to send you this book and my book, The Sword, subtitled The Blessing of Righteous Government and The Overthrow of Tyrants. I want to send you these two books for a gift of whatever you can afford. Pay the $8 shipping and handling, which does not cover our costs, and then give a gift of whatever size you want, and we'll send you these books. If you cannot afford anything but the $8, can't even afford that, write us a note, and we'll send them to you for free. I want you to have these books so that you can be better equipped to fight in the political arena. Come on, order them today. All right. So we look back, as we should, at Adolf Hitler and at his henchmen, and we look at how they came to power, we study what they did, and we say never again. But we forget that while it was happening, the people who had the duty to recognize the danger and to stop him, namely the leaders of France and the leaders of England, okay? They refused to see the obvious, except for a handful. like Churchill. One of the reasons that Churchill became the leader of England when Poland fell was because he was the only political leader at that time, a high-level political leader at that time, well-known, 65 years old, okay? This is usually when guys go into retirement. He was the only one who did not have the blood of British soldiers and Polish people on his hands. It was soon to have the blood of British soldiers on his hand. The Wehrmacht, Hitler's war machine, was about to, it had overrun Poland, it was about to overrun France. And during the 1930s, when Churchill was warning people, he was mocked, he was vilified. They said that he was a warmonger. They said that he was emotionally and psychologically unstable. The press did everything they could to vilify him and to protect Hitler, okay? To protect the Nazis. This is a part of a history that most people don't remember. They don't know, they haven't studied it, they haven't read on it. You can see it, it's all there, okay? And people today, when they say, look, Islam is a fundamental threat, an existential threat to Christianity, to Judaism, to Western civilization, to Christendom. People like me say that the media elite want to mock us and vilify us like they did Churchill, okay? And yes, I'm comparing myself to Churchill in this exact way, that I am speaking the truth based upon history, based upon what I've read, like Churchill spoke the truth based upon history and what he had read and heard from Adolf Hitler and his henchmen. Muhammad and his followers left an enormous written record, and they left an enormous historical record, okay? You don't have to be an Arabic scholar to read Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Kathir, Al-Tabari. You media people who are so neglectful and are so lazy that you won't even pick up these books and read them, you will share in a certain level of culpability and guilt. Just like the British press did in the 1930s when they covered for Hitler and his men and they vilified Churchill and those like him who were saying, Hitler is a threat, he's going to plunge us all into war, we've got to deal with this. Well, Islam's not a threat, it's a peaceful religion. Oh, really? Tell that to the Coptic Christians. Tell that to the Jews that lived in Arabia before they were banished or brutally murdered by the hundreds and thousands in Arabia, in Muhammad's lifetime, at Muhammad's order. Okay? That's why I'm talking about Churchill and Hitler. There's this record that Muhammad left and his early followers left that ISIS and Al-Qaeda and others are trying to duplicate. And some of the people that are Muslims that are not hardcore terrorists, all right, they're not just going to go and start blowing people up. They nevertheless believe that it's ethically appropriate to overthrow the U.S. government, the U.S. Constitution, by force and replace it with Sharia law. Gaffrey, that's his name, right, who did the poll? Within the last few months, a poll was done of Muslims in America that showed, get his name for me because I know I mispronounced it, that showed that 20%, 19% of the Muslims polled in America believed that it would be ethically appropriate to use force to overthrow the U.S. Constitution and institute Sharia law. 51% of those moderate Muslims polled believed that Sharia law would be better than the U.S. Constitution. That's what we're dealing with, people. And when that poll came out, Gaffney, right, when Gaffney's poll came out, there was no big news story. ABC didn't cover it. I mean, I think about it. Think with me of George Stephanopoulos. Do you remember George Stephanopoulos saying an alarming poll was released today showing blah, blah, blah? You know, there's 3 million Muslims in the country. 20% of them, a fifth of them, believe that it would be appropriate to use violence to overthrow the U.S. Constitution and institute Sharia law. That's 600,000 people if there are 3 million Muslims. That's something to be concerned about. So we should be looking at Germany. But what we should also be doing is on Discovery Channel and on History Channel and any other channel that had the guts and the integrity to run it, we should be running shows about Muhammad's life and his henchmen the way they run shows about Hitler's life and his henchmen. Look what they did, never again. We should be looking at Muhammad. Look what they did, never again. But it's happening right now. It's happening. And we, like the English and the French leaders and the English and the French press of the 1930s, are turning a blind eye and a deaf ear, pretending that nothing is wrong and that we're dealing with honorable, peaceful people and a great religion of peace. Nonsense. Baloney. Friend, this TV show represents a mission. It's to be a voice of resistance to the evil in the land, but also to inspire people like you to take a stand at any level that you might be able to equip you, to inspire you, to challenge you, to give you the rhetorical ammunition that you need. But we still have to pay bills. This program, as you know if you're a regular viewer, we don't spend a lot of time raising money. We don't spend a lot of time saying, oh, you need to buy this and we're going to run. No, we're bringing you a message, but we still have bills that we need to pay. I'm asking you, if you have been blessed by this show, to please go to our website or send a check to the address you see on the screen or call the phone number that you see on the screen and use your credit card and to give $50 or $100 or $500 just to help us meet our normal expenses. And we'll keep bringing you this hard-hitting show. So the reality is this: there may be a video or TV series 10, 20, 30 years from now focusing yet again on Germany, but not in the 1930s where they say never again, but in the 2020s when Germany goes through some kind of internal civil war because of the Muslim immigrants that are there that are trying to break the back of Christian history and Christian culture and institute in its place Muslim history, Muslim culture, Muslim law. All right? Maybe then there'll be a TV series that says never again. But probably not. Not until people wake up and recognize the real threat. Now, I want to close on something on Russia. Because Russia, as we know, is bombing ISIS like America should have been doing. Russia has suffered at the hands of, and the satellite countries have suffered at the hands of Muslims far more than Americans have, okay? Maybe numerically, America might be more because of the sheer volume of people that died on 9/11, but the consistency of the attacks and that horrible attack in that school where they killed all those children. When the Russians went in, they killed every Muslim that was there. Do you know that? They killed them all. All right, I don't believe any of them survived, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but they knew they weren't taking prisoners, okay? And they're not taking prisoners with ISIS now. So all these Muslims are fleeing into Germany, fleeing into Europe, and Europe, like their foolish predecessors, they're bowing and scraping and trying to suppress Christian history, Christian theology, Christian icons, Christian images, to make the Muslims more comfortable so that they can practice their religion, but we can't practice ours. See the idiocy of this? And so Russia knows we're sitting on 90% of the natural gas. Russia's not worried. 90% of Europe's natural gas comes from Russia. Okay? They want to stay warm this winter? You got to turn to Russia. And there's people complaining because Russia is bombing ISIS and they shouldn't be doing this. And Putin's saying, the Europe doesn't like Russia and me right now, but I control their heat for the winter and I'm bombing ISIS, and some of the Muslim terrorists and other just Muslims are fleeing into France and Germany, and they're going to destabilize those countries. So they're going to have to focus on the instability in their own country and not on Russia. And Putin's going, what's not to love? What's not to love? Think about it, okay? Yes, we have a problem with Russia, but we have a way, way bigger problem with ISIS. And it could be that we have a way bigger problem with England and France and Germany, who are bowing and scraping before Islam. That could be a far bigger problem, because at the end of the day, if Islam has a foothold in Europe, what's going to happen to the civilized world? Talk to you tomorrow.